Welcome to Basic Brewing Video. I'm James Spencer.
I'm Steve Wilkes.
Happy New Year!
Happy New Year.
Here we are in 2024.
Yeah. Now we're taping this in 2023.
Right. So.
But we will cross the international date line.
You're looking at last year. So what we got is some nice, beautiful, clear bubbly to ring in the new year. Cheers.
Indeed. And this might be the most beautiful beer you've ever made.
I agree.
Are you sure you didn't just like pour a Coors or something?
It is beautiful.
Look at that.
We can't stop looking at it.
I can't believe it's like a painting.
A painting.
It's like a painting.
Well, this is a what I'm calling, or what Chris Colby and I are calling, a pre-prohibition American lager, or a classic American Pilsner. Now, you know, this is our interpretation on it, and we came up with it on an episode of Basic Brewing Radio. And in a later episode of Basic Brewing Radio, our friend and beer historian Peter Simons from down in Australia told us why we were wrong. So listen to both of those shows. So whatever you call it, I think it's a darn good beer, and I'm going to tell you how I made it. Okay. Would you like to hear?
I'd love to hear this.
All right, this is a 5-gallon or 19-liter batch. I started with 8 gallons or 30 liters of water at 140 degrees Fahrenheit or 60 C. And I started that low because I was doing a step mash. Into that water, I put 5 pounds or 2.27 kilograms of 6-row, 2.5 pounds or 1.13 kilograms of 2-row, and 3.5 pounds of, or 1.61 kilograms of flaked rice. So I mashed for 15 minutes at that lower temperature, 140 degrees Fahrenheit or 60 C, and then I ramped up to 152 degrees Fahrenheit or 67 C, stirring my mash as I went, and I rested there for 90 minutes. So I collected my wort for the boil. I boiled for 60 minutes. And at the beginning of that 60-minute boil, I added 20 grams of nugget at 14.1% alpha acid. I chilled the wort down to 55 degrees Fahrenheit or 13 C. And into that, I pitched a 2-liter starter of L26 Pilgrimage from Imperial. My original gravity was 1053, my final gravity 1007 for an ABV of 6%. ABV. I'm Mr. Redundant today. So I did everything right as far as lagers are concerned. I aerated the wort with oxygen. I cooled the wort down to yeast or lager pitching temperature. I fermented in my kegerator. I brought it out for a diacetyl rest when the fermentation started slowing down. And I also added Clarity Firm and fined with gelatin.
Okay.
So it is super crystal clear.
Boy, it really is.
But it took a fairly long time for it to get this way. When I kegged, it was pretty cloudy. But then over the next few weeks, it got more clear and more clear and more clear. So now at the bottom of the keg, it's...
Now, can you speak to how the beer changed in flavor over time, or did it?
I'm not sure.
Because you basically killed that keg by yourself.
Well,
point that
I had
out.
a little bit of help, but I kegged it in mid November, so it's been a month and a half, so it's all right. But I don't know. I think it might have gotten more clear tasting along the way. I sent Chris Colby a couple of keg fills, and he said that he detected kind of a slight estery character from the beer. I don't get that at all. I think this is super, super clean, and I'm wondering if there was still some yeast in solution at the time that I kegged his samples, and maybe he's tasting a little bit of yeast, or was tasting a little bit of the yeast in that. So what do you think? I've been talking the whole time.
Well, everything you said is correct. I mean, I don't think it's. I don't get any esters particularly at all. It's nice and fruity. I mean, I don't know if that's the. There's a fruitiness to it that I really like. maybe that's, I don't know if that's esters or not. But when I think of what Chris is trying to say, it's like an off flavor. I get kind of a, I don't know if it's from the hops, but there is a nice, refreshing, almost like a residual sweetness, even though it's not sweet. It's just one of those umami things you can't really describe.
I wonder if that's coming from the rice, the character of the rice.
Maybe.
Could be the nugget hops, maybe?
I'm thinking it's the hops. I guess just get just that little tiny bit of, well, fruitiness. But that beer is just, it's as clean as it can be when it finishes. There's nothing in there. There's no popcorn. There's no corn.
Right.
There's no circus peanuts. Nothing like that's going on in this beer. So
I think it's pretty clean. I get what you're saying. It's not as crisp as, say, like a commercial lager.
Well,
it's not like a Budweiser or something like that, or a Coors or whatever, or Miller Lite, or so maybe if there was a little bit more bitterness from the hops, maybe that would maybe it's out of balance a little bit in terms of the maltiness versus the bitterness.
Maybe, but
it's not super bitter.
I am not a style expert, so getting down into the weeds about what turns this from this style to that style, because I can't go there, with any great expertise. I can just say that from my own palate memory, a German Bitburger is a little crisper than this, but the Warsteiner is rounder and softer in those two Pilsners. And this is more of a Warsteiner.
Huh.
It's a little rounder and softer. A Bitburger is it's very crisp, and this is a little rounder. And maybe that's malt.
I'm a little rounder and softer after
Well, there
the
you
holidays.
go. So sweet and tasty.
But the feedback that Peter Simons had on the recipe, is that it probably would have been lower in alcohol and probably would have had a little bit more color, just because of the types of malts that were around back then. So maybe a Vienna malt instead of, say, like the 6-row and the 2-row, just to give it a little more color, maybe a teeny bit more, caramel character, and lower alcohol. But it's an extinct style, so it's up to interpretation. There's other than the records that I think Peter actually, in fact, he wrote an article in Zymergy magazine this past year about these older styles. But it's making me cry. Or maybe it's the cold weather. All right. Well, this is delicious. It's a lot. It's more work to do a proper lager, but I think that you can see the difference. You can taste the difference, and this is definitely not an ale.
No.
It is and the pilgrimage yeast from Imperial really did a really good job.
That's lovely beer.
And it made a starter. I was a good boy. All right. Well, Happy New Year, everybody.
Happy New Year.
We'll see you on down the line. Cheers. Come and visit us online at basicbrewing.com. You can find archive lists of our audio and video podcasts on homebrewing. You can also find our DVDs and our brewer's logbook, where you can track and log up to 50 batches of beer.
That's very good. That's like the champagne of bottled beers.
I think that's been taken.
Oh, sorry. Darn, I thought I came up with that.